Okay, so here we are.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm sorry about that. I don't. I usually keep everything on the calendar. You guys had sent the invite, but I don't know how we ended up with Monday, but my bad. Sorry about that. But
No worries. Here we
yeah,
are.
happy to be here. So thanks for
Excellent.
having me. So what's on your guys' mind?
Well, first we wanted just to let people know what you do, what you've done so far about your channel, what you're trying to
Yeah,
do.
sure, sure. So my name is Andrew Wilson. I'm the host of the um, pretty popular now debate show, The Crucible, where we do debates from across the spectrum from all different types of political persuasions. I'm a Christian nationalist, and I also, about once a week, will do a trash talk where I kind of break down what's going on internet politics and kind of point out all the absurdities that these different, fucking idiots do. And kind of make fun of them for my own personal amusement. So that's who I am. That's what I do. My wife is the author of Occult Feminism, and she's fairly popular in the Christian nationalist circles as well. And she's also a blood sport debater like I am.
Yes, I watched a
So
couple of debates. I saw a debate, a little boy the other day. I thought it was very unfair. Uh,
yeah, well, he started it, right? She just finished it, so that's
it
that's
just
how.
felt like a grown-up woman debating a little boy who doesn't know what the hell is going on.
May I know what his name is?
I
Genuinely do
forgot he
not know.
was one
His
of
name is
the
he goes by Big Tech. Big Tech.
right.
So anyway, he's an A America First apologist, Groyper apologist. As you guys might know, I don't
What?
think those guys like you guys very much.
No, yes.
Yeah, we don't really care that much. Just a question because you're well versed on this sort of people. Uh, how the popularity of these Groyper fellows has been after their dear comrade leader was banned from everything.
Well, they went on to essentially make a platform that was not beholden to terms of service, and it's fairly it's doing pretty well. Like they're not, they've been ostracized off the major platforms, and that hurt them for sure. Um, but moving over to, they make a lot of appearances on Odyssey and these other different TOS free platforms, and then they have their own that they constructed. And I mean, they seem to be doing fairly well. The message, well, some of the message of America First is a lot of people like, and there's a lot of it that a lot of people don't like. So it's it's kind of a cult of personality at this point. Um, Fuentes is kind of the head of the cult, and
Yes.
that's well, I mean, his generals have admitted it to me in debates live that it's a cult and that cults are good things and that there should be more cults. So
But
it
they
it
would
is.
line about the occult of the Freemasons and so
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. They might say that that's super base. It seems like the messaging that comes out of AF now is just whatever the narrative is. Doesn't matter what it is, they're going to be counter to it, regardless of even if it makes sense. They're still going to be counter to whatever that narrative is. So their popularity relies very heavily on being counterculture, um,
Yeah.
which the pendulum swings, and once you become the culture, then you become the unpopular ones, right? So you got to kind of be careful what you wish for. But the whole thing is driven at this point by the cult of personality. There's no actual policies or real standing policies that I can indicate for you that they believe in, stand for, or get behind. They don't seem to, that doesn't seem to be their objective.
It
So
seems
I
it
don't.
seems to be basically disdain for America.
Yeah, the American empire, as they
Yeah,
call
but
it, or the American regime. Um, so from my perspective, what these guys are is they're the turds in the bowl that we used to throw. You know, we used to push them in the locker in high school. We used to make fun of them. We used to mess them up, and it's basically revenge of of the nerd style pornography. It's like mental pornography, revenge of the nerds. So, and from
that's the
their eye,
right.
they're like, we got banned, and they wouldn't let us, keck and say racial slurs. So, fuck them. Let's watch the whole world burn. That seems to be the motivation around it these days. So, you
Hmm.
know,
So people are
yeah.
asking, what is a Christian nationalist? So maybe we should break that down first.
So there's a lot of different factions who call themselves Christian nationalists. Most of them are not. All a Christian nationalist should really be saying is that they are the ultra conservative. What they're trying to conserve is the biblical value structure of the West. That's it. That's what they're supposed to be conserving. So if you say you're a conservative, you should be a Christian nationalist. So, what a Christian nationalist would propose is that society should live by Christian ethics. And Christian ethics is a real proposal. And there's probably more that has been written on Christian ethics than any other form of media, period, ever, all through history.
Hmm.
Some of the greatest minds on planet Earth have, saints and everything else have written huge tomes and volumes on how to live your life and how to live them, in an ethical way. And so when all these people are freaking out and they're mad about this and they're mad about that, they're really what they're looking for is just to get back to some type of ethical system that they can follow. And society doesn't do that. We kind of live in this golden age, right? People take it for granted, but we live in this age where the grocery store is full of food. Nobody's going hungry. I mean, in America, I kind of wish people would go a little more hungry, right? They're so fucking fat, so many of them. Um, but kind of everything's on demand. So you got electricity on demand, heat on demand, entertainment on demand, just like everything you could ever imagine. The average Joe lives like the kings of old, and it's life
Sure.
is so comfortable and life is so good, and the people just kind of find that you just can't give them enough, right? It's just like there's never enough. And so, any slight amount of discomfort or variation in life or this or that, they just kind of freak the fuck out. And they don't really need to live by an ethical or a moral code anymore because life's just kind of handed to everybody now. You're just kind of born into this golden age. And it doesn't seem to have done well for people psychologically. They're all fucked up, you know?
There's
It's
definitely a lot
like,
of that, but so people understand. I mean, you say Christian values or Christian ethics. I mean, there's a
mhm.
spectrum of what people understand these to be. So, one
Yeah,
person might
so
say, well, it's just basic morality, isn't it? And another guy will say things are a lot more
no.
conservative.
No, that's not really. So Christian ethics follows a deontological model of duty and the teachings of Jesus Christ. So the duty is to the teachings of Jesus Christ and to follow them, as best you can. The Orthodox Christians like myself believe, in the concept of synergy and that by following these teachings you can become more Christ-like. That's the goal. To live the least sinful life that you can possibly live. And now most of us are very far from that, don't get me wrong, but that's what saints are. They've achieved as much of it as they possibly can in some cases, or this type of thing. So the goal is universal deontological ethics.
So
That's
as
I
a
have
Christian nationalist, would you apply it? If you say you had a majority, in the country.
well, so people often conflate this with Sharia, which is bizarre.
Hmm.
We don't propose that Christianity become the state. We think that if the politicians are Christians, it's already become the state. You understand what I mean? They don't have to. The church doesn't have to be some type of centralized power. We just propose that the politicians be moral, and that the morality that they follow is Christianity. But you know that they actually follow it. They don't pay lip service to it. So
I have a question about the.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have a question about the organizing method of this ideology you say that you hold.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you are talking about the theoretical somehow changing of the U.S. Constitution, it sounds like you're just a regular Christian conservative that should just need to organize his idea in the regular method, like DeSantis and so on, to pass your wishes and so on, and that's it. What do you think
the Constitution says? Do you think that the Constitution says we're supposed to have a secular state? Because it does not. It does not say that. The Constitution says that Congress can't make any laws that elevate one particular religion over another particular religion. It doesn't say anything about state secularism. So there's no reason.
If you ask my opinion, it's irrelevant. I'm not a U.S. Citizen.
No.
But
well,
you can just
is what
present
I'm
your
you.
argument to the listeners.
Well, so this is what I'm telling you, is that the Constitution does not identify the United States as being secular. It just identifies that the United States Congress can't make a law elevating one religion over another religion. That's it. Not that the politicians must have a secular state, or that you can't have the Ten Commandments in school, or that you can't do public prayer, or any of that. It doesn't say anything about that in the negative.
I guess the way they argue it is that if you have a prayer, well, that will be one religion's prayer, and then you elevate one religion over the other. But I personally don't have a problem with it, with prayers in school. So
yeah,
not that they.
But Congress isn't making a law to do that, right? So this is the thing: is it just says you can't make a law establishing this. So it's like you can have prayer in school.
Yeah,
you just don't need to. You just don't have a congressional law that says that you elevate anything over anything else.
Yeah, no, that's
and there's no. Sure. Yeah, so this is, that's why the language of these things is very important.
Well, there's definitely been a cultural war against religion for a while, right? A lot of people saw the kind of the religion as a threat to some degree. I mean, you can even see today in those what's it called, the Handmaid's Tale. Is that kind of
this type of propaganda. So the truth is that when we break society down by ideological belief structure, and we're looking for these patterns to see, like, who's the happiest, who's the most well-adjusted, who's doing the best, right? Here's the pattern that you find. The divorce rates for Christians are way lower than the rest of the population. Their happiness index is way higher. Their ability to construct money is way higher. Their ability to make families is way higher and hold them together. By almost every single metric, people who are devout Christians live a better life. Even the atheists and the utilitarians and the people with consequentialist belief structures don't deny that this is true.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Religion is a marked part of the fabric of Western society from the ground up. And the reason that Christianity in particular is always under attack is because it offers what no other religion in the West has been able to, which is a kind of guide form of ethics that is complementary to the way that the government operates, and it increases the value structure of everybody who lives within the West. It just does.
Oh,
and
for sure.
And it has for hundreds of years. And so when they attack it, usually they're attacking it because they have these kind of pro-do as thou wilt rallies, right? Anytime you see people who say we want to get rid of religion for more freedom, the more freedom that they want is always the freedom to sin. So they're always asking, well, we want to have more rights to do horrible things. What are the horrible things? Well, more porn, right? More abortions, more LGBTQ, more this, more that, but they never actually advocate for individual rights that you would consider to be universal, like speech or the ability to own a gun, which is a big one here, the ability to keep the military from illegal searches and seizures, all of these different things. They're never advocating for those things. They're only ever advocating for maximum amounts of sin, always.
Well, they're just trying to do that. They're trying to follow their instincts, and they come across those obstacles, so they don't notice the other thing so much. So yeah, I mean,
Well,
I
I
can
mean,
understand the
there,
point of view, because I
yeah,
used to be more like that. Today, I'm a bit more on the other side of it. But I used to see religion as something that is restricting me, and religious people as people who are trying to enforce their morality on me. So
well,
there's a
right. Well, that's
tendency to
true.
rebel against that as
That
well.
is actually the correct way to look at it. Religious people are
Mm.
trying to enforce their morality on you.
And I
It's
used
just
to
that
think,
that's not bad. That's not
no,
bad.
I understand. I used to think, oh, you should separate, they should separate religion from politics. But in fact, you can't. I mean, because it's exactly the same thing, more or less.
It's morals. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's morality and ethics.
politics,
So yeah,
yeah, politics is an extension of morality.
yeah,
And so, what is the basis of morality that you want your politicians to have? Do you
exactly.
want your politicians to say more homosexuals, more promiscuous sex, more single moms, more, more of the sinful behavior? Because anytime you see, and it's not that there haven't been some legitimate attacks on Orthodox Protestants who advocate for insane things like you can't mow your lawn on Sunday, right? Like
Mm.
there, or this is a dry county, and you can't have alcohol here past past X amount of time on a Sunday. You know, okay, fine. I think you can probably concede that, hey, that's not a, I can understand at least why they would go after that. But
Mm.
that's not really what they're going after. What they're going after is they're trying to get rid of any moral restrictions on the horrific things that they want to do.
Yeah.
Always, you know.
Yeah,
So
but
Let's have polygamy. Let's have incest. Let's have free drugs. Let's have needles. You know what I mean? It's just, it's
yeah,
always, it's
I
always the most horrific shit you can imagine, and that's what they're always after.
yeah,
yeah,
but
I understand your point, but again, I'm not a simp for their behavior, to put it mildly. But I think in reality they are basically want to advance the current variant as a COVID terminology, the current variant of their new utopia recipe. They are more utopians than pure degenerates. Again, I still think the ideas are very not ideal and not very smart, but the average Democrat voter does not say, I want more X, Y, and Z. They say, I want a compassionate leader who will bring the utopia closer. Again, I
Well,
still think they're
yeah,
wrong, but it's
sure.
mischaracterization of their motives.
Well, sure, and I don't disagree with that assessment, right? It's the correct assessment, but you have to understand these ideologies are very old. This is all a cult ideology
mm,
that advocates for this type of do as, Aleister Crowley and do as thou wilt. That was the age that he foresaw, and that the people who were into theosophy saw, was this kind of gilded age where most of the problems that humanity was facing were out of the way, like hunger and things like this, hunger and housing and water and blah 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 blah. And once that was out of the way, then we can have all the polygamous sex that we want and open our minds up to all these crazy ass new experiences, and basically society without restraint. And so this was the core tenet of the Theosophists, and this is kind of a huge overlap with Enlightenment thinking, which that took a lot of the theosophical principles from these old occults and kind of put them into this brand new postmodern philosophy, and that's where we are right now, and it's
Wait,
uh, it's it's nightmarish.
wait again, I do not want to dwell on a very long topic, but how did you make the jump between the Enlightenment and the American founders and the occult and postmodernism? I wasn't following you, sadly.
Well, okay, so that would take a lot of explanation, but essentially, many of our founding fathers were Freemasons. This is not something that is argued. The John Locke style Enlightenment documents that the Constitution was based off of is not argued. The theosophists that came before that have intertwined themselves throughout American society from the 1700s to the 1800s, and their influence on things like feminism and on many of the movements before that are very occult based, like Sylvia Plath, for instance, who was she was a big feminist. She had basically everyone around her had a horrific end. The list kind of goes on and on of all of the names I can give you that follow kind of this theosophical mindset that were major players in American political movements, including Margaret Sanger. So, like trying to explain to you a 300-year timeline in just a few minutes is difficult, but just note that they're all intertwined.
Yeah, here's a question. If you think it's very long, feel free to say another time. How do you describe the occult in your opinion? Because from what I understood, basically all these Freemasons in reality are basically at that time nerds, were ultra rich classical liberal that wanted to have classical liberal meetings and promote classical liberalism. But today, I don't think that there are almost no one who truly believe in classical liberalism anymore, because it all was taken over by soft socialism, hard socialism, neo-Marxism, conservatism, liberalism hybrids, and so on. So if there are no pure classical liberal espousers, because it's pretty much a semi-dead ideology, who are these people? Because I'm not one who inclined to believe in all these Freemasons behind the scenes, especially in the modern age ideas. So what do you describe?
Hang on, back up. Nobody's saying that right now Freemasons are pulling the strings on political discourse in the United States. I'm telling you that there's a timeline where Masons were very influential in U.S. politics, and that's one of the historical things that you have to tangle with. It's not a matter of belief. You don't say, I don't believe that this historically documented thing happened. It happened. Many of our founders were Freemasons. Now you say that they're classical liberals. They're not. They weren't classical liberals. That's insane. Satanism is the mark of the Freemasonic Church. And what I mean by Satanism is just saying that it's the rejection that there's higher beings that are above you, and that you yourself are some type of demigod, and that you have some type of power locked inside of you, and that if you reach a certain level, you will unlock this power and become divine. It's always, and you'll find it in these people's writings, their poetry, everything going back, man. It's not particularly controversial, to be honest with you. So when you say things like, I'm not diving into some conspiracy theory where, Masons run the earth. Well, nobody's saying that they do. We're just saying that there's a key point in history where they were very influential, and here's the things that they said.
Yeah, after I hear all these things, no matter how 100% correct they are or not, I feel a bit happy that Israel does not have a constitution. Yeah, a thought that may appear blasphemous to American.
I was hoping you could enlighten us, if you understand it yourself, all the fracturing that has occurred appears to us anyway, in the Western right. Because it used to be that people just said, I'm Republican, I'm conservative. They might add, I'm a Christian, but they wouldn't elaborate more than that. These days, there's all these different categories. It's a bit like pronouns, yeah. Mm-hmm. So we got the Groypers, we got NRX.
Yeah. So let me explain to you the process for this so that you understand. why this has occurred and where we stand right now. So you're right. The delineation point used to be very dialectical. I'm on the left, I'm on the right, right? I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. It was this way, it was dialectical thinking this way for almost, a good solid 150 years, to be honest with you. There was only really ever two major competing political parties at any one given time, generally in American history. There's exceptions to that,
Yeah,
but they're not that common.
yeah.
So oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just confirming. Basically, it was very rare to meet someone who will tell you something other than Republican or Democrat.
Right. So how this dialectic started to fold in is because society has become more and more and more progressive. So what we call the Overton window, meaning the window between being able to look through it and say I'm on the right and look through it and say I'm on the left, has slid further and further and further left. So what has ended up happening is that modern day conservatives have basically adopted the same Democrat messaging from just 20 years ago. For instance, you can find not very long ago where Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were saying that marriage should be between one man and one woman, and they changed their position on this to be for gay marriage, and now you see that there's large conservative support for gay marriage. So what has happened is people who want to keep a more conservative traditional mindset, they look at the Overton window continuously sliding to the left, and they don't consider people who self-identify as being conservatives to be the true conservatives. So they've broken off into factions now. And so, some of the factions they're labeled dissident right, for instance, and dissident right would be like the Groyper movement and this type of thing. And what their main objective is to kind of eliminate the right-wing thought process of just being the left wing from 10 or 20 years ago. And then you have the alt-right, or what's been coined the alt-right now, which are basically the armband wearing, we want to bring back the Third Reich fuckers, right? And those guys they're considered everywhere in between. Some of them are national Bolsheviks, and some of them are, they're advocating for left-wing policies and blaming Jews, and some of them are advocating right-wing policies and blaming Jews. They're all over the place. But basically, what's happened is there's a massive disenfranchisement of a huge swath of the American population from the traditional right wing, because the Overton window has moved so far to the left that they don't consider them to be right-wingers anymore.
Yeah, I think it's even deeper than that, because what I understood from seeing YouTube and so on, their thought process is, if things got so far down the road as yesterday with that Leah Thomas character and all these trans children and so on is a very clear example. They say something is deeply rotten in the entire process that brought us to here, so we don't only wish to fix things, we want to repair things so this thing may never get this broken again. And now they are going to the quest to find what was broken and how to repair it, not just undo it. This is the initial thought process of all these new right factions. Yes, this is how they start their.
No, I don't think it is. I disagree with you. So the difference that these people have, they're not economic differences. These aren't like the modern right is fine with socialist economic policies. They don't care. They're not looking to fix something that is beyond repair, broken. They're saying literally that on the social policies for social cohesion in the United States, that the right wing has gone too far to the left, and that this is why we have an incohesive society when it comes to social order. They're not looking to fix economic problems. They're not looking to fix infrastructure. They're not looking for any of the real keys for why society may have begun to break down, including on the moral ethical stance. They're literally just going after people who they think are too far left on social issues, and they don't consider them to be right wingers anymore. This is 99% of the motivation of these people.
Yeah, but when I did my intelligence gathering, quote unquote, on these people, as the people who say Keith Woods and so on, the vibe I understood how they, not Keith Woods, the people who unironically read Ebola and so on, Ebola, it appears to me they just say, I want to never leave the option of this thing to ever become to this position again.
Yeah, they
This
seem to
is,
be studying this, trying to understand where things went wrong. And they point to, they try to find a point in history. This is where we went wrong, or when we allowed this, or the, the vote, the change in the voting laws, allowing everyone to vote. Maybe that is what There's all
You
sorts
guys
of.
are giving these people way too much credit. I'm telling you, most of these movements are not predicated on looking for the specific example of derailment and trying to retroactively fix it. They don't fucking care, right? At this point, they want a societal reset. They don't feel like you can even grasp society back from the maw
Right.
of this social incohesion anymore. There might be some intellectuals on the right that you can point to who are looking for these specific circumstances, like the 19th Amendment for suffrage or things like this. And I would be apt to agree that those people exist. I'm just telling you that they're not at the forefront of any of these movements that are advocating for dissident or alt-right policies. That's just absurd. The most of these people are young people, right? They move in on the rhetoric. They're not moving in on
Yes.
an actual intellectual basis of trying to discern where society went off the fucking rails.
Yeah, I think there's a truth to that as well. They seem to be motivated by anger, frustration, and some sort of disdain for people who are managing. It seems to mirror the left, the far left. It's starting to mirror the far left, and they seem to be very busy demolishing each other as well. So I don't know who is who exactly, but the Groypers hate the NRX, and the NRX hate the other ones, and they all argue amongst themselves.
Yeah, the
Um,
Wignats,
yeah.
hate the Groypers, and the Groypers hate the this, and they, it's like the leg bone's connected to the thigh bone is connected to, right? So
So,
what,
do you understand the differences between them? Is there any way to understand the differences between them?
oh yeah, yeah, sure. So, um, to start with,
Hmm.
the Groypers on the dissident right, they don't want an ethno-nationalist state, meaning they're not advocating for a whites only nation. What they're advocating for is a majoritarian white nation. So the assumption, the presupposition here is that, look, you can't take a country where the demographic is 40% non-white and then, export everybody who's not white out of it. That's unrealistic and stupid, and, it would never happen. So what we want to do instead is make a move towards the preservation of the majority. And we think that there are political solutions in order to do that. That would be kind of the Groyper mindset, or the dissident right-wing mindset. The alt-right
So,
mindset,
okay.
yeah, the contrast to that, to the alt-right mindset, is fuck them, export it all. There is no political solution. Let it all burn down, and then we'll teach them a lesson. Then that's kind of their mindset. So you can break the tome of mindsets now between modern conservative, Groyper, which would be dissident right, and alt-right, literally based on racial preference.
Right. So the modern conservative doesn't care about race. The
Generally speaking, they do not.
mm,
They're a little older, a little more seasoned. They've been out amongst the people, and they realized that, oh shit, there's not really nearly as much of a problem here as we thought there would be. And they also know that they have to contend with these issues like birth rate problems and things like this. So, mass migration is not good for any country or any nation ever. and they know this. And modern conservatives rage against having this open border. They want to close it down. Modern conservatives don't want mass migration. You know what I mean? But they try to do things in a political state that makes sense, at least in comparison to the system that they're working with. The alternative groups, their rhetoric is a little bit more brutal, to say the least, and they're not advocating for political solutions that really make any sense. It's more of a sometimes there's money motivations behind it. Sometimes it's a cult of personality, but you don't see a lot of policy prescriptions coming from, Wignats or the dissident right or the alt-right. They don't advocate policy. It's one of the reasons that they lose to progressives so often. Progressives have policy that they advocate for, good or bad, but they are policy prescriptions that people can see. These other groups are just kind of really high on rhetoric and really low on policy.
For sure. I've noticed people like Fuentes and others are literally repeating slogans they've heard on Al Jazeera, RT, and Persian TV. I try to make this point whenever I get a chance, because a lot of people have been convinced by the talk regards to Russia and Ukraine. I'm no expert on Russia and Ukraine, but when I listen to these same people talk about Israel, and that's something I do know something about. I see people are very ignorant, don't know what they're talking about, and if this is the same level of their understanding of other issues, I'm not convinced. In fact, the more Nick Fuentes supports Putin, the less I like Putin. He's become a sort of anti-litmus test for me, because he was going on about it would be good if China would take over Taiwan and Hong Kong.
Rivers of blood of many innocent civilians. And
and it seems to be...
You poor guys, like you guys, it's in some ways, I don't mean to cut you off, but in some ways I just kind of have to laugh at the kind of the foreigner's viewpoint of this, right? Because you try to intellectualize it, and you're like, what's going through these people's minds and this and that. It's like, don't try to intellectualize it so much. It's not intellectual. Let me just explain. Their motivation behind supporting these groups has nothing to do with actual support of these groups. If they see that conservatives are saying Al Jazeera is bad, they're going to say it's good. If they see the conservative, modern, mainstream conservatism saying soldiers are good, our military is good, they're going to say it's bad. If they, anything that's in the mainstream where they say it's good, they're just going to drive the counter narrative that it's bad. It's not that they believe any of this shit.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Like hipsters.
Yeah, hipsters. Well, and like for instance, if mainstream conservatism is saying, look, we need to get back to our roots and family values, they'll say, well, we're incels. We don't even like women, right? If they say, that we need to increase the military budget so that we can make sure that, our forces abroad are taken care of during wartime, they'll say, the military is gay and we hate it. Whatever it is that the mainstream is supporting, they hate. Right? It doesn't matter what it is. It's just a contrary narrative. And it's kind of funny to me, watching you guys, you're trying to intellectualize.
No, I was trying to say, I was about to say, it seems like they got into the fact that the mainstream media is lying to them, that they look for alternatives, and now they're open to any propagandist who wants to feed them nonsense.
But they are the alternatives. Right? They are the alternatives. It's like, it's not that these people are looking to alternative media and the alternative media is forming what they think. They are the alternative media. That's what they are. Right? They're not being radicalized by them.
They are. Well, Al Jazeera was created in order to Islamize America. So, it's strange to me that Catholics are preaching the words of Al Jazeera.
Yeah, but it's not about that. It's what I'm saying to you. They don't understand geopolitics.
No, they don't
actually have any understanding of the history of Israel versus the history of Islam. what happened with Spain and the Moors, and how the West has been under constant attack from Islamicists for most of the West history, going all the way back to the Barbary States with Jefferson. Like, they don't understand, they don't care about any of that. They
No.
don't care. They're just saying, does Israel not like them? And you go, yeah, and well, then we like them. Okay, that's the whole mindset.
Yeah,
right?
but
And
when you said they don't intellectualize anything, when we do intelligence gathering on them, they have a lot of pseudo-intellectualization about Israel. You can hear every single argument under the sun why we are responsible for the ruination of America, and we say, oh, they do at least think about reasons, quote unquote. So it's not only just hipsterism. You can see they made the Fed, they did 9/11, dancing
Yes.
Israelis. Israel is the exporter of wokeness. Wokeness is a Trotskyist neocon, free echoes, and so on. So they do try to intellectualize, at least on this topic.
What I'm trying to say is the basis
like
of.
on the hang on. No,
Sorry.
they don't. It's all just surface level stuff, right? It's like
It is.
you saying, they put a board up and then they go, well, they're intellectualizing the house. They're not, right? The arguments that they come up for this shit are so absurd and so stupid that it's hard for me to fathom that anybody buys into any of it. It's fucking insane. Now, this is not to say that they don't have a lot of great points when it comes to things like Zionism, or when it comes to things like Christian morality, oftentimes being diametrically opposed to what's in the Talmud and things like this. Those are true points, but they don't understand why they're true. Like, they don't understand why they're true. They don't really dive in. Like, maybe a few of them do, but for the most part, they don't dive into that stuff.
Whenever they speak about Zionism, it sounds like they're speaking about the Democrats. They're not speaking about Israel. I don't think I think Americans have changed what Zionism means. So when you say Zionism, I think you're talking about something else.
Well, they mean Jewish supremacy. When they say Zionism, they're talking about Jewish supremacy.
They understood they just copy-pasted the globalist Wokester argument. Any form of nationalism is supremacy, it need to be abolished when they say it.
Yeah.
And that will be applied to them eventually.
This is literally the words of the UN anti-racist agenda from all the way back from the 70s.
Listen, this depends on which side that you're on. The alt-right will get extremely upset that they believe that Israel is allowed to have an ethno-nationalist state, but they're not, right? This is their big gripe, and so because of this,
what the hell is allowed? America is the hegemony of the world right now. America is allowing things.
That's
well,
true.
I'm not making an advocation for what they say or don't say. I'm just telling you what they say. So what they're saying specifically is, like, you guys are ethno-nationalists and you have an ethno-nationalist state. They can't have one. And so therefore it's somehow your fault that they can't have one. This is the mindset of these people.
It's like a child on the Walmart or something.
Well, I think what they're saying is that, for example, when they're right, they say the ADL, for example, is advocating for what they perceive as an ethno state in Israel, but not in America. But they forget that Israel is only 77% Jewish. And even those Jews are actually of multiple races. So it's not like a white ethno-state that they're talking about.
Listen, man, listen. I'm sorry to be the one that brings this here, but this is the God's honest truth. Okay? Most of this shit that has to do with it's this person's fault, it's that group's fault, it's the Jews, it's the blacks, it's the this, it's the that, literally has to do with a lack of taking personal responsibility for the fact that society is fucked up. And for the most part, if you want to see who fucked it up, all you have to do is go look in the mirror.
That's very true. That's very true. But it doesn't negate that, there are people operating in the world against America, obviously. You have enemies, like we all do.
Yeah, but they
So-
think it's good. They want the West to be weakened. They want the West to be weakened. They want the West to be destroyed. They want American imperialism to be destroyed. They think, like our enemies do, that we're the great Satan, that we're evil, that we're awful, that we're horrific, and that the faster this decadent society goes down, the better.
They don't understand that I think they themselves got the Fukuyama bluff because they don't internalize that in this day and age today, as the conservative opinion that humanity, nature never change, only the actors change, quote unquote. And there are people on this earth that would literally make them cup barrier slaves with maybe a body organ removed. There are people who would wish to do this to them on this year in 2022. They sound to me like progressive. No, humanity.
They also
has
sound like
evolved. If China will win, they will just give us terms and that's it.
yeah. They sound like they're not part of the game. They think they're watching a game, but I mean they can see it. You know, the gas prices have gone up. The food prices will go up. They will start to suffer as a result of America weakening. It's not like a
They
game.
don't care.
They will care when they can't afford.
Yeah, I know
to-
they will. I know that they will. Right. So
Yeah,
I
when
try
there's
to
no
bring a
food.
message. I try to bring a message of sanity. Okay, I try to explain that you live in a golden age, you fucking fool. You have no idea how good you have it compared to the men of old. Like you just have no clue how good life for all of us actually really is. But
It is.
Especially for Americans, except maybe health insurance, everything is amazing and very cheap in America.
oh,
You can see the house of the average American. It's like a mansion to most
They live
even
like
Western
kings.
countries.
You can live in an apartment complex and live like a king did once. It's
Yes.
not a joke.
You
And-
literally
and-
press a button and someone brings you a coffee or a pizza.
Literally,
Yeah.
literally everything is on demand. I mean, you couldn't imagine what a king would have paid to just have food on demand, or what a king would have paid to have the collective wisdom and knowledge of all of humanity in a box that he could reference called the internet.
Yeah.
Like, they have no idea what is really there for them because they were born into it. They're spoiled brats. They have no clue how good things actually are because there's no frame of reference. They just, so they're like, burn it down. Let's go back to the old ways. It's like you would die in minutes.
Yes.
You have no idea how hard life really is without having this type of structured society. But
Yes.
from
But
their
that-
standpoint,
Especially
They are
these
right that
people-
we've lost
these
something,
people, These people appear like whiny brat gamers, like the cat boy, the guy who dated the cat boy will do the revolution from his Alex Jones co-hosting studio. These people are living in lunacy.
Hmm. Oh, I think. Can you hear us, Andrew? There was
Yeah,
some-
I can- I
Oh,
can
okay.
hear you.
There was some blipping.
I was just listening. So like this kind of goes to my point I'm trying to express is like, look, these are mostly under 20 people, under 20 years old. They were born into a privileged life of luxury and they have no idea how luxurious their lives truly are because they have no frame of reference. Okay, they can import any culture they want onto their television screen in 15 seconds. They have every form of entertainment imaginable to entertain the mind literally at their fingertips. They have the collective wisdom and knowledge of all of humanity at their fingertips. Everything anybody could ever have wanted throughout all of human history is here. It's right now, it's here. You can access all of it, and they want to burn it down.
Well, I've seen you debate them very well. I mean, both you and your wife are
Yeah,
master debaters. I mean, it's. I wouldn't want to argue that a circle is a circle against you, really.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. So sociology-wise, if they are such angry and such such distorted view in reality, and they are so young, where are their parents? Most likely, they are the children of right wingers. Were most likely boomer anti-woke from the boomer angle. Why
You
they
see-
are so angry and so hate their parents? It sounds like a hippie
So this is
neo-Marxist revolution against parents or something.
Well, this kind of moves into the spoiled brat syndrome that I'm talking to you about, right? A
Yeah.
lot of their parents aren't actually right wingers, right? A lot of their parents are left wingers or single moms or things like this, right? Most of these people have a grudge. They're very upset. They're very angry. Mostly they're angry and they don't know why they're angry. They don't even understand what they're so fucking upset about. What they're upset about is that they don't have a purpose-driven life. There's no direction for them, right? They call people who get jobs and go to work and create wealth for themselves and their families wages. That's what they say about them. They're wages. They're wage slaves. They're peasants. They're not good enough for us. Everything that is good, they produce a counter narrative to it that it's actually secretly bad, and it's based to be against it, right? The rage that they have it's all of it. I'm telling you, comes from a lack of sense of self. Okay, they have
Yeah.
no sense of self. In order to really progress in life, you have to be very introspective, and you have to be willing to cut off the bad parts of you. And all of us have bad parts of us, and we can't discover them unless we become introspective people and look for them, and we try to eradicate those parts of ourselves that we hate. They don't do that. They do the opposite. They let those portions of themselves fester and grow to be the whole body instead. All right, it's a complete inversion. So the thing is like I don't think that these are necessarily evil people, because they're not. I just think that they're not very introspective, and they don't really have a frame of reference. They were just, like every rich kid who's ever existed in human history, they were born into this great life of luxury. And even if you're poor, it was a life of luxury in comparison. And what need is there to be introspective? Just, you can say what you want, you can do what you want, you can, there's essentially, it's a consequence free life, you know. And so the morality has just dropped like a rock, you know.
Yeah,
Like what?
this is a blind spot of me. I genuinely cannot enter the shoe of a person who think like that as a young Israeli. As you have no purpose, you're angry about everything, you think everything is ruined. I just can't enter these shoes. So maybe this is the blind spot you told, that we over intellectualize them as they are followers of Evola and so on. You say, no, this is just young, spoiled brat hipsterism of the right and so on.
Well, I mean, I know how this must sound. Like, I get that to your guys' ears, this must sound like a massive oversimplification. Okay, but from my perspective, what it sounds like is it's over intellectualizing from your end, right? Because I've talked to so many of these, and they sound like brats. Like when you talk to them in DMs and you talk to them in person and this and that, and you get to the heart of
Yes.
what all this is about. It's like, well, I couldn't say the N word online, and that's not, so society needs to burn. And it's like, what? Like that's what it starts to come down to. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't say Jewish slurs online, and that's bullshit. And that shows you how oppressive the American regime is. And so burn it all down. Like, this is where this mindset it really is at. And so that's why when you guys talk about this and you're internalizing it and you're intellectualizing it, forgive me for kind of laughing a little bit at your expense, but it's because I don't feel like you have a great grasp that these are basically just dumb, spoiled brat idiots who don't know shit about shit. And they're pushing for not only an unpopular movement, but it's just basically punk rock,
Yeah.
framed as Mr. Belvedere style, conservatism. And it's
I think this is true of the Groypers, but are you familiar with people like Keith Woods, the academic agent, Joel Davis?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
yeah. So they introduce a tad of philosophy, right? And the Groypers were just criticizing Keith Woods, just so you know. Okay, Nick Fuentes and those guys were just criticizing him for not being entertaining enough and being too philosophical. Keith Woods, he brings good points to bear, right? That I think a lot of people would not be upset with him on, right? But what is the point of third position? The point is to blend some type of bizarre economic model of socialism with the social model of conservatism, right? And it's like, what are you talking about? You know, none of it's ever fleshed out. None of it is ever really pushed forward as being something that's viable. You know, it's always just this it's going to cost us $1 zillion. You know what I mean? And the government's going to start enforcing your personal morality. And you can add a dash of philosophy and a dash of this and a dash of that, but it's still the same shit, man.
They also seem to think that there's a global solution for humanity, where to me it's quite obvious that some cultures are more individualistic and some are more collectivist. And I just can't imagine Americans ever being socialists. Even all this LARPish socialism that's going on at the moment, they're so individualistic. They all want their thing, their own little universe.
Well, imagine out of one side of your face saying how ethnocentric the peoples of the world are, which is why they should not ever coexist with each other. And then at the same time, say that you can provide a solution that'll meet all of their needs, right?
Yeah.
It's the most absurd thing that I've ever heard in my life. It makes no sense on its face, right? It's not that ethno-nationalists don't have a point with some of the things that they say, with ethnic homogeneity being something that is good for a lot of societies. You know what I mean? I don't think that worldwide most people even disagree with that sentiment, but that's not really what they're advocating for. They're not just advocating that certain ethnicities do best within their own culture and homogeny. They try to advocate that there's some type of global homogeny that can be achieved between these 6 different races. And it's like the world has never operated that way. The 20th century shows you exactly how much different ethnicities will bomb the world into ruins if necessary to achieve whatever their ends are, and they don't care about skin color, and they don't care about these things. So it's an absurdity on its face.
Yeah. Well, I think there's also this issue that America projects all these issues outside. So you get it in the UK, you get it even in Israel. We had like our own Black Lives Matter, and we never had slavery. We've only been around for 70 years, and the only black people in Israel are people we brought over at our expense because we helped them escape war and so on. So it's so bizarre. The influence of American culture is so strong on Western countries that they even adopt struggles that don't belong to them.
Yeah, all Western leftism is a copy paste of American leftism. Just a complete.
Yeah, but
I have a theory that we'd solve the whole world's problem if we canceled the copy paste on computers. Journalists.
No, man, that's all due to corporate outsourcing of influence. Okay, so you buy the same goods we buy, just like globally, most people buy the same types of goods we do from the same corporations, right? Nike, Reebok, right? All if there's not a McDonald's in Israel, I'll die of shock, right? I'm guessing.
Ironically, it's so expensive in Israel that it only costs $1 less than a good hamburger meal. So everyone goes to the real hamburger joint, so it's not as popular here.
Gotcha, but it's
not a phrase. I went to McDonald's. Every adult would be ashamed to say it.
But it is there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there. Is Foot Locker there?
No, I don't think so.
Is
also
Nike
Starbucks failed. Nike's there.
As a store, no. As a brand in stores, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, what I'm saying is that these massive corporate entities will export, because these are not actual corporate or cultural issues nearly as much as they're presented as being. They're corporate issues, and they're usually designed to sell a lot of products, which is why you'll see these political movements get co-opted by corporations almost instantly. And they'll be trying to push whatever the product is. You saw that with like Colin Kaepernick. Oh, well, he has his own shoe line.
I think right now you are oversimplifying, because we get a wave of every single political issue from the American left to Israel in 10 years delay. Even it has nothing to do with the free markets. We have the pro 9-month abortion state funded TV endorsed. I prouded it publicly. Lunacy from America, 10 years delay. There is nothing about capitalism involved.
Sure. I'm not.
Fake UGs.
Okay, but what I'm saying to you is that just because the movement or whatever the ideology of the movement was supposed to be when it finally reaches your shores, let's say, or reaches your nation 10 months later, that doesn't mean that it wasn't initially engineered in America by corporations. Whether or not the corporations or the certain corporate entities are exporting it on purpose to Israel is not really part of the equation. I'm just saying that a lot of these places are bolstered and these movements are bolstered by large corporate interests here. How they're exported there, I have no idea. I'm not familiar enough with the process in order to comment on it. I'm just telling you how they're not nearly as spontaneous as you would think. And you have to think about the cognitive dissonance that's behind the dissident right and the alt-right when they say things like, there's no such thing as police suppression of blacks in the United States. And you go, well, I mean, I tend to agree that that's probably true. But then they say, we should defund the police because when a certain disease hit the shores, the cops were enforcing the mandates of our various governors and various politicians. So they're just an arm of the state and they can't be trusted. And it's like, well, isn't that what blacks are basically saying?
Yeah, this is a thing. Again, you told me that I over-intellectualized them anyway, but I don't understand this quote-unquote, they called themselves as a nickname, a white Sharia crowds that are simultaneously radical anti-mandates and anti-vaccine. It basically says the state will hit this girl with a cane because how short her skirt is, but the state will never tell me any COVID restriction whatsoever. It's basically just a mishmash between state power and libertarianism at the same time. But you say they're just stupid kids.
Yeah, that's where that's why you have these massive hypocrisies that make no sense. That's my point. You know what I mean? The whole base of this thing is so hypocritical and makes so little sense that I think I kind of understand why we all kind of try to rationalize it, right? But there's not a lot of rationality to it. It's irrational. That's why it makes no sense. Everything is a contradiction. It's all foolish. It's contradictory to its own messaging. Like, how do you say we want strong families, but we're incels? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense on its face.
Yeah.
So, this is, hang on, I'm cracking a beer here, guys. Give me a second. Cracking a beer from my corporate overlords while I live in this vast life of luxury, right? And I'm thankful for being able to live in a life of luxury, by the way, because I do have a frame of reference and understand that being able to raise children in the rural Midwest with a high wage and essentially live like the kings of old did it's a privilege.
It is,
right?
You have no idea how many people from all over the West, not even other nations, says, "Oh, the American have a private family of two parents and 3 children and a dog, have a huge basement and 2 floors and a swimming pool and a garden. This is basically
You're explaining my house.
This is basically the millionaires of most Western nations, the millionaires, as USD dollar millionaires in almost.
Yeah, I have a built-in shooting range. Okay, big giant pond, multi-level home, a swimming pool, jacuzzi. Right, great big bed, 5 children, nice wife, great job. It's like, what are you fucking people talking about? These people really have no frame of reference. They just don't have any clue the type of luxury that is really available to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time. And
Yeah,
this, and I think that this type of comfort is one of the driving points for kind of the dissident right and alt right's cognitive dissonance when it comes to what they need to be upset about. It's humans live and breathe conflict, and if we don't have conflict, we tend to make conflict even when there isn't any conflict.
yes. I like to kind of give them a cognitive dissonance moment when they say they talk about say Trump. Trump was amazing. Trump was all right. Of course, he was amazing. He was a friend of Israel. Or if they go on about Bolsonaro, and I say, of course, he's great. He's a friend of Israel. It turns out that all the people that they appreciate are always friends of Israel, and the people that they hate are enemies of Israel. So I like to point it out to them, and it really annoys them because it doesn't fit with anything they think.
No, it doesn't fit in the jigsaw puzzle that Nick Fuentes endorsed Donald Trump and considered for the first part of Donald Trump's presidency. He considered himself to be key in getting Trump into office, right? And so
Yes.
it's like, okay, but you come to find out that Trump's surrounded by a lot of Jews and seemed to be very friendly with Israel and seemed to have kind of this very strong policy with Israeli-American relationships. It's like, how does that work in to your kind of grand plan here? Well, it doesn't. So what they do is they just dismiss it, right? And they're like, yeah, we love everything Trump did except with the Jews.
No, I
Yes.
thought that you would say so we hate Trump because they're
I mean, it to us it's completely consistent. What Trump did, it's what we expect, an American to do. Really, if he's working in the interests of America. I didn't quite understand why he withdrew so many soldiers from the Saudis and the Emirates. That might turn out to be a mistake, but what Biden is doing right now is very alarming. He's weakening America. He's giving power to Russia and Iran. The dollar will suffer. I'm worried that you'll get inflation.
with if you will have a double-digit inflation plus the loss of the petrodollar, you are for a sadly very rough time.
Yeah, but they'll blame all of that on the IMF and on the Federal Reserve Bank and say it's because Jews are in charge of all of it, and that's why we're experiencing inflation. They won't blame the fact that Trump himself contributed to this massively with these huge, giant stimulus checks to every single mom and pop business in the United States, along with personal checks to each individual in order to help them get through the pandemic. So these are the things, again, that breed this type of cognitive dissonance that they can't really answer for,
Yeah.
Like, of course, Trump was a key player in the responsibility of modern inflation in the United States. There's no doubt that that's true, but I guarantee you that somehow this will be an IMF and it'll be a Federal Reserve issue is how it'll be framed, and it'll be a Biden working with the Jews somehow. I know how their minds operate.
Yeah, they
I
always
mean?
we always find a way to say it's the Zionists. I mean,
Yeah, but we have
we wanted Trump. I mean,
we have 300. Yeah, first Israelis were 80% pro-Trump, as many polls, even by leftist media here, 80% of Israeli would have voted for Trump theoretically. Also, we have a 300 Jericho missiles, so they are wasting their time.
Well, but you have to understand that, like, my position on Jewish relationships, right, it's like this. Don't take this the wrong way, but I don't think that Jews are nearly as relevant as these people seem to think that Jews are. I don't find them to be this huge relevant force in society the way that they're portrayed as being. I don't find them to be that way. So the fact that there's so much hyper focus on Israel and Judaism and this type of thing is bizarre to me because there, to be perfectly honest with you, there's not that many Jews, and there's not nearly as many in influential positions as there's portrayed as being. And
I
it's like
know.
I don't get it. I've
Yeah.
never understood it. Honestly, I just kind of feel like Jews aren't really that relevant. But
But
you know,
they seem, for example, they seem to know a lot about American Jews voted overwhelmingly for Biden. I think about 75%. But they don't know that about the same number of Israelis would have voted for Trump, and uh, Biden had 14% approval, like one
yeah,
four.
but, like, why do whites get the pass, right? It's like, okay, but they voted a majority for Biden too.
Mm,
So like, why do we just sweep that under the rug and be like, oh, these small groups, these tiny block groups, they voted, in large percentages for this candidate, so therefore it's their fault. It's like, no, whites are the largest voting bloc, you know. So, again, all of it is always to avoid any personal responsibility for anything that we actually do. And it's all designed to point and say, like, the world's a dynamic place. So there
well,
are
they
tons
say
of bad.
Zionists control the media and all this. As far as we're concerned, NYT is anti-Zionist, or CNN is, BBC is anti-Zionist. They are really have been working for decades to undermine our country.
Well, the left wing controls most of the major institutions. This includes academia. It includes now there you'll find Jewish overrepresentations in some of these areas. That's
Yeah.
true, and nobody denies that that's true. You know what I mean? But this is ideologically left wing. It's just an ideological problem. It's
Mm.
not a race or a people problem. It
Okay.
really is ideologically driven.
And also, they
This
have to understand that, Israel and American Jews have different concerns, right? So they're mixing the two things up. They don't really understand. They have a very basic understanding of things.
Wait, you mean that somebody who's born outside of a nation, doesn't know anything about the nation, has no ties to the nation or the people, might have different interests than the people who are in that nation? No,
the the
no,
thing
say
the
it
thing
ain't so.
the thing that Americans don't realize is how important Israel is to America strategically, and all America's enemies have worked really, really hard to undo the relationship between America and Israel, and they are literally doing the work for them. Both Israel and America would suffer. The whole West would suffer if there is less cooperation between America and Israel. A lot of the
Well,
West.
yeah,
so
yeah,
I have points of contention about that, right? I don't agree
Go.
with you that that's necessarily true. But where I think we can find agreement is that most certainly we have some interest in Israel, and Israel has some interest in the United States. There's no doubt that that's true. Do I think that we should be glorifying the nation of Israel or kissing its ass or any? No, I don't. And I think that the Israelis
Oh
themselves
no.
maybe don't want that.
No,
You
no
know,
country should glorify another country. But if you actually look at it on, at face value, and you look at the strategic importance and the the involvement of Israelis and Americans in joint projects that keep America, ahead of everyone else, that would be a great loss if that went somewhere else. Because Israel would not have a choice. It can't finance all those things on its own. So it would have to have partners. And if America is moving more closer to Iran, that would make the Israelis naturally look for other
but that's like,
partners.
I mean, but that's a subjective way of looking at it. You know what I mean? Like, sure, there's joint technological relationship between the Israelis and America. Fine, like we can concede that that's true. But you'd have to concede that if Israel wasn't there, we would still have joint relationships with other first world nations for technological advancement, and that they would bear a lot of fruit. So it's not to say like it's difficult to judge. On the one hand, you're like, it's the only real westernized democracy in the entire area. So do you support it? Well, the answer is unequivocally probably yes. You know what I mean? But on the other hand, the idea that we need to bleed for Israel That's where I think that the isolationist mindset comes in.
Yeah,
That's correct. Like bleed your own fights, bleed your own battles. We
We
don't
do.
need
We
to
have
do that.
we
we have
do. I
already
mean,
argued.
that is Iranian propaganda to against America to convince them that they are fighting for Israel. Not a single soldier ever fought. American soldier ever fought for Israel in any way. But the other way is true. Is actually Israelis did risk their lives for America in a couple of limited operations when America asked, but never the other way around. So this story that America attacked Iraq for Israel was
Well,
absolutely
I mean,
nonsense.
we've displaced plenty of Israeli enemies. Okay, we've crippled Iran with sanctions. The Iranians would glass Israel tomorrow if they ever had nuclear equipment.
We,
They would kill every Israeli without mercy in seconds.
but
Saddam Hussein also, if he had had the capability and could have gotten away from Iran to
Yeah,
unify any type of
we were
Muslim
the one who
coalition.
stopped him for have those
we
capabilities.
eliminated these WMDs, not America.
That's true.
Or same with Syria. Same with Syria.
Wait. They didn't have what WMDs?
In
Iraq
80,
didn't have WMDs.
they did.
We destroyed the Saddam Hussein nuclear program in the 80s.
Yeah. That's
And
why you
this-
won. That's why you won the 90s Kuwait war. Otherwise, you wouldn't have not been able to attack Iraq in the first place.
Well, I'm saying is that during our invasion, there was no WMDs in Iraq.
Yeah, because we cleared them a decade earlier.
Well, sure, but leaving that, what I'm saying is that without United States forces,
Without
in that
Israeli
region-
clearing the WMDs, you would not have been able to attack
yeah, but
Iraq.
what do we care about Iraq for? Even if
You did.
if we had never invaded Iraq, who cares?
I'll explain. The reason you attacked Iraq is because Iraq was a threat to the oil of the Emirates and Saudi, and you wanted control of the oil. That's what it was about. Nothing to do with Israel. Nothing to do with Israel. In fact, Israelis suffered because you attacked Iraq. Because we
Where
were
did
hit.
Israelis get their oil, man?
Not from Iraq.
Well, where do they get it?
Turkey, a bit of a Turkey,
On the I don't know.
Azerbaijan.
Well, you
I
get it from
can't
the same
remember
places we get it, right? Get it from the same places we get it. So if there's any interest, if there's any oil interest of the United States, rest assured it's going to be an oil interest of Israel. Again, I'm not here to criticize whether or not Israel has been an ally in the region to the United States. I think it's the least important question.
Yeah, but
You know,
this idea that America invaded Iraq for Israel, that's just utter nonsense.
But that's not my postulation. That's not what I'm saying. I don't make that claim.
But you
I
said
was
bleed,
there.
America bleeds for Israel. I don't think any American. We saved thousands of American lives with intelligence information, but I don't think we actually had any American die for us.
Well, I mean, are you saying that the relationship's not equally, if not unequally yoked?
No, there are many. Again, I'm not some ultra high-end analyst to give you the expert opinion, quote unquote. But there are many things Americans just do not understand. How many things we done not on the best terms or did very badly just because America forced us to.
We gave away 80% of our country because of America. 80%.
Well, yeah, but I mean, America
we
gave you the
literally
country.
cannot build freely in our capital, Jerusalem, because of
Well, like,
America.
let's be honest though, America gave you the country.
No,
No,
America
we
was
won
not
the Sinai.
effective.
We won the Sinai Desert in '56 when America was not an
America
ally.
was not a close ally of Israel until mid to late 60s, early 70s.
They made us
Wait.
give back the Sinai Desert to the Egyptians. 80%
Wait,
of our
post World War II,
yeah.
Yeah.
America signed on to a resolution for Israel to be reestablished as a nation.
It
This
kind of
is
did.
I explain it. This is a bit of a very small dose of the picture. First of all, it was unanimously together with the USSR. This was in '47. Later, when the Civil War and the Great War between Israel and the Arabs started, America redacted that vote, and they were actively anti the formation of the State of Israel. They wanted to start a trusteeship, I think, run by America, and Israel refused it openly. They were literally trying to foil the declaration of the Israeli independence in '48, again, I'm not saying it with a grudge and so on, but it appears that you're a bit
Yeah.
uninformed.
And
Well,
in
no, no, no. I
56,
don't
in
think. I don't think.
56,
I
the
don't think I
Israel.
am.
No,
Hang on.
this,
I don't think I am a bit uninformed. None of
yeah.
that contends with my original point that without U.S. backing post World War II, there would not have been a nation to begin with. If the United States had run contrary to the formation of Israel as a nation,
Well, he could have
post
vetoed
World
this,
War
yeah.
II, post World War II, you wouldn't have one. There's no contending with that.
Okay, America did not help Israel in any way during the 40s, and during the 50s, he actually sabotaged the Israeli takeover of the Sinai Desert and forced Israel to give it back. Israel took it the Sinai Desert again in 67 without America help, and America again forced it to give it back in the 70s. So
Yeah, but these aren't the
America
points I'm
dictates
contending.
Israeli. Americans don't realize, because they don't watch our news, but they don't realize how much of Israeli politics they dictate, and we have
But these
to
aren't
pay.
points of
You have to.
contention.
So
Like these aren't
if
points
anyone
I'm
controls
contending with.
anyone, it's America controls Israel, which makes sense.
But
America has a lot more power.
but brother, I'm not contending those points,
Hmm.
right? So you can construct forward and say, but what about? That's fine, right? But you have to concede the original point, which is that if America had decided that Israel should not form as a nation at the end of World War II, it would
Mhm.
not have been formed as a nation. Is that
Why
true?
not?
I don't know.
The,
No, I
the
don't know if it's
USSR,
true. No, I don't
the
know.
USSR was
Because
together with
because their
America.
influence at that point as a global hegemony was the strongest it had ever been. They were in control of Germany, they were in control of Japan, they were in control of everybody who was part of the original League of Nations, later to become the United Nations. If they had decided that you did not have a nation, you would not have had one. Who would have gone against them?
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
but this is
this
a bit of a stretch to say they did inaction, therefore you owe us as an action. Also, they were in cahoots with the Saudis who were vehemently anti-Israel at
That's
the
a
time.
straw man. That's a straw man, right? It's like, I'm not saying that. I just want you to concede a single point, which is that the likelihood that Israel would not be established as a nation had the U.S. been against it being established as a nation, the likelihood is that it would not be one.
okay.
That's it. Not
Okay.
asking you to project anything forward
Okay.
from that.
Okay. The U.S. was not against, but it's not because of American assistance that Israel took the Sinai Desert. It's because of American interference that we gave it back to the Egyptians twice.
Why are you fighting
Okay.
points I'm not making? You keep fighting points.
No, we're trying to enlighten you about the history, because what we find is that when Americans make the points about they don't understand the history of what went on, how much America dictates to Israelis how they should live and what they should do, and how many thousands of Israelis died as a consequence of these. And then when we hear Americans say that Israel, has any say over America, all we try to do is lobby and influence American politicians, because their decisions, can be very dangerous to us. I mean, what Biden is doing now is extremely dangerous to us.
So just back up for me. Remember, I'm just a simple potato head. Okay, I'm a potato head Irishman, right? I'm not contending or giving you any points of contention that there was times where the United States didn't support Israel, or that Israel has a unique history where it defended itself, its own borders, its own interests, its own everything. I'm not contending any of that. I'm not fighting with you on it. There's no
Cool.
reason.
So
I'm just looking for the singular concession that the
I did. I'm saying yes.
Yeah.
America approved the Israeli Declaration of Independence.
Right. So this is where the start of the anti-Israeli kind of lobby and mindset comes in, which is that if there is the concession that America lobbied hard to establish it as a nation, that backtracking, there's some type of IOU. Like, you would agree that that makes logical sense from the point of somebody who does not like Israel. Now, you can say it's because they're ignorant, or they're stupid, or they don't understand all the events that happened post that. And I would agree. I'm just trying to look at a starting basis where we can find some consensus for why this is going on.
Well, I mean, just for voting, accepting that Israel exists is not exactly a massive sacrifice the Americans did. Most of the West voted with them. So the British were neutral because they didn't want to upset the Arabs there, because they just had a big fight with them in the Arab revolt of the 30s, which was manufactured by the Nazis, but so they just tried to stay neutral. They were extremely dependent on Arab oil, more than America was.
And the USSR supported it temporarily as an instrument to kick the British out from another Middle Eastern country.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons America supported Israel. It was to weaken the UK. But when, like I say, in '56, Israel took over the Sinai Desert and made itself 5 times bigger, but America didn't like it, so we had to give it back. And then it happened again in the '60s, and we had to give it back, which made it possible for the Egyptians to attack us in '73. And that's when the relationship with America really started proper. And I think they don't understand what America is doing geopolitically either. America pays a lot of money to buy itself influence because it's working like a soft empire. It controls the situation without using too much force, without killing too many people. It kind of controls the world. And,
but this is the Wignat argument, right? So the Wignat argument is that America is this massive imperial force that governs most of the world using a mixture of economic and social hitmen in order to go in and have their interests become dominant, regardless of the situation on the ground and how it might affect the local demographic that's there.
Yes.
So in some ways, I think that you have more agreement with those types of people than you think. From my standpoint, right, I think that being a part of a hegemonic empire that gives me a life of luxury is fucking awesome.
Yes.
Right?
No, I agree with you. I think, I mean, there are many ways we can criticize America, and we all 3 of us have in this talk, and it's a lot better than any of the alternatives.
But I think that it's not only just empire for its own sake. Of course, you have a very good life and so on. To a level, it also brings morality because it stopped the Hobbesian natural state, and many very poor countries managed to pull themselves up because they were not in a endless colonial war in the defending themselves all the time and so on. All this peace and quiet brought unimaginable prosperity and help to all humanity.
I agree. So on that basis,
I mean, that's a great point. Like you're making a fantastic point, and the thing that I think you should probably drive home is have the reasonable expectation that why would most Americans have a good geopolitical view on what's going on in Israel and in the Middle East proper? What the hell would they need to for, right? They wake up every morning and they walk over to their timed coffee pot. Their coffee's already made for them, and then they pour it and they go and they get in their luxury automobile.
Yes.
And they drive to work, and on the way they stop and they have a deluxe breakfast that's ready made at a window for them. And then they get to work and they only have to work a 6 to 8 hour shift most of the time. You know what I mean? And then they get back in their luxury automobile and they drive home and they get in their king size bed, and they basically, it's a hell of a good life. Like why would they be too particularly interested in the geopolitical issues that other people are dealing with your nation? And this is where I think everything runs awry, is because I do think you guys have a point that there's massive ignorance as to this particular geographical region, and there is.
Well, it seems that in general, I mean, I admit I'm completely ignorant when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. I've been just trying to catch up and understand it. Why would you? Like, I mean, there's so many. We have enough things to deal with, just at home. Right. And it also the way you hear about it is curated by people you shouldn't trust, right? So it amazes me that all these right wingers are very critical of the media when it's convenient, but when it says something that they like, they just swallow it, thinking it's true. So
Well,
any
answers for most people, and you'll find this is just part of the human condition, that answers for most people, they want them to be simplistic. And, the laws of logic do exclude middle, right? So if something's either true or it's false. So it's easy to fall into the false dialectic of just being like, well, Jews did it. And they're like, well, that's a really easy answer. You know what I mean? That's a super easy answer. They never really have to contend with very many Jewish people. They don't really have to argue with them very much. They don't really have to talk to them very much. They don't really have to do any of these things, right? It's
I
from
noticed. I
their
mean,
perspective.
I've noticed that when I debated that guy, what was it? NNH?
Hake, Hake, Hake,
Hake,
and,
yeah,
and Hake in Night Nation
yeah,
review.
yeah.
Mhm.
I felt I actually felt a little bad because they don't really know what they're talking about, and I just, you know,
Yeah,
uh,
but I mean, to be fair, why would they? There's an easy answer here, right? The
but they
easy
went,
answer
they
is,
came
well,
to debate it.
you sunk this particular battleship, and it's your fault that we were in these wars, and it's your fault this happened. It doesn't matter that the issue is vastly complex, had tens of thousands of players involved in it, had entire world regional governments, and that people who study it for their entire life don't truly have a complete grasp on how it all worked.
Yeah,
Simplistic answers are what people look for,
yeah.
and that's part of the lack of introspection that society at large is dealing with, is the ability to look inside and say, fuck, I don't know anything about this. I don't know, maybe I'm fucking wrong. Maybe I don't have all the answers, maybe there's a lot more here than I thought. That's really hard to do. Like, I don't know if you guys know that or not, but
It is, yeah, of course.
yeah, it's
I've
hard. It's hard for people.
I don't know if you know about Jonathan Haidt, who did some research into the connection between psychology and politics. And one of the things he found that people on the left tend to care more about people they don't know than people they know. And in extreme cases, it's like disdain for what you know and the love of the exotic, of something you don't know. And it's part of being open-minded, right? It's open-mindedness to the extreme, where you actually, instead of, you don't like what you know, you always like what you don't know. And it seems to me that this new right is becoming that way too, where they are finding more with the enemy than with the people at home. They seem to have a lot of disdain for people. And, I mean, we know about all these crazy leftist agenda, the LGBT and so on. But most people are not like that. Most people, if you go out, most people are normal. Most people, this is a problem that they exaggerated in their mind as well. Like, you see what I mean? And it causes them to be enemy agents.
Like, look, you're absolutely right I think in your framing of this, because it's correct, right? So the only point I disagree with you on, I mostly consider psychology to be a soft science, and
It is, yeah, for sure.
and almost useless in comparison to the intuitive instinct that we have. We're all psychologists, really, because we're all dealing inside the social paradigm of interacting with people that we don't know all the time. The internet has created this new world where we can do that, where we can literally interact with people from across the world and try to decipher if our worldview is correct or it's not correct, or what the hell is even going on with how we tick and how we think about things. Now, these are all kind of intuitive questions, and from an intuitive standpoint, of course you're right? You're saying, like, look, these people, they find a lot more value in things that they can't see, that they can't understand, that they can't really know about, than they do at the things that they take for granted every single day when they look around their house.
Yeah.
And it reminds me kind of the old Stoicism, where like Marcus Aurelius would say something like, look around at everything that you have and think about how miserable your life would be if all these things that you took for granted weren't there anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the part where I think that they have the kind of this mass disconnect with what's going on in objective reality. You know what I mean? Most people, like you said, and you're correct, are not bad people,
Yeah.
right?
And
They can
we're
live in
amazing
bad
at collaboration. I mean, I was sat in actually, I think it was in Chicago Airport, in O'Hare, or however it's pronounced. And I was just, I was waiting, the airplane was waiting. So you could see the whole operation of the airport. And you see hundreds of people coordinated, working together, all the passengers, everything is happening coordinated. These are people from probably 200, 100 different countries. They don't even share a language. And they still manage to coordinate. What an amazing creature we are! That everything works and nothing, no two planes collide and everything is working.
Well, and you see this in the military as well, right? You'll see them put up entire cities and tent cities, entire military posts and bases in just a few hours, with everybody, working like ants work,
Yeah,
in total coordination with each other.
yeah,
And I
we're pretty
think
amazing, abilities.
we are, and most people, I don't think, are bad people, and I don't think that intuitively even these groups think that they are, which is why they try to put so much on this kind of cross-generational, global, hegemonic clan that has been ruling from the shadows, who they don't really know their names, but they've been there for 200 years thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because it's difficult to just point at an individual and be like, man, that's a really fucked up person. Now, there are people like that you can do that with, but just life is far more dynamic than that.
Yes.
We've all got our kind of skeletons in our closet. We've all done shit that we're not proud of. We've all kind of done these things. And but for the most part, I think most people try or make some type of attempt to not be a complete and total shitbag.
Yeah, I mean, it's just concerning to us, because we're looking and we see that a lot of people are very preoccupied with Zionists and Israel. They keep thinking it's like, are we still in the Middle Ages? People thought that we had special powers. The way they talk about us, it's like they think we have like some meeting and we kind of organize the world exactly
Well,
to our wishes. But actually, things are not going great for us at all. So,
but you make sure that you touch brass a little bit yourselves, guys, right?
yeah,
Don't think for a second that because there's a lot of these kind of chronically online groups that have lost their way when it comes to what I call material reality, the things that do exist that you can objectively see versus the things that you can't. And so you insert the things that you can't see as being objective truth to kind of fill in the holes. Right?
yes,
Don't lose your way, and remember to still go out and dig in your garden, and remember to go out and remember that there is a material reality that
of
we're
course.
living in, and that most people actually live in it. And that what happens to a lot of us is we become so chronically online, we become part of these kind of little meta universes that we forget that, there's 7 billion people on planet Earth, right?
No, that's very true. Another thing I've noticed about these crowd is that they don't respect their elders, and I thought, being a conservative, that's one of the most basic things, is to
Oh, yeah.
respect your elders.
The
Even if you
boomer,
disagree
right?
with them, you
Dumb
should
boomer,
think,
you stupid boomer, you don't know what
yeah,
you're talking about, dummy.
exactly.
Right? But isn't this really kind of driving my point home about the under 20 teenage angst, where they know, the child knows everything and you're just too stupid to breathe,
Yes,
and all of your collective wisdom doesn't mean anything, and they're going to go off and be something. The Bible has a story about this that even I'm sure the Jews know, called the prodigal son. Didn't you guys come up with that one?
I think so. Silver is a biblical expert. I'm a terrible
Right.
secularist.
But the prodigal son explains this concept in depth, which is to say, it was the same type of thing. Give me my inheritance early, old man. You're a dumb
Yes,
fuck. You don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot. I'm going to go into the city amongst all of these worldly teenagers, and I'll really show you. And then comes home with their tail tucked between their legs, which is what happens to most children, and what's going to happen to a lot of the children in these various movements. So I don't worry about it nearly as much. Anytime the younger generation rejects the wisdom of the older generation, they're pretty much doomed to failure.
they are, but they can cause a lot of damage while they're
Yeah.
failing. Yeah.
And they have caused a lot of damage. But the thing is that it's always mitigated because they don't have the wisdom to cause enough damage. You know, so if you had listened to the wisdom of your forebears, you might have known how to really fuck shit up. You know, but you didn't. So they kind of come up with their own devices. But I think that this is a tale as old as time. I
Of
don't think
course.
anything is being repeated, and I think that that's a really great observation that you make there, Masad, when you say, "Look, kind of this. This is something I talk to my wife a lot about: is the rejection of wisdom. That's the path of the fool, and you always end up with foolish results. You know."
Yes, I mean, I did it too, but I don't think I was that clever to reject the wisdom of my elders. And we all do it to an extent, right? I mean, it's part of growing
Yeah,
up. But it
yeah. I
seems
always
like they
thought
haven't grown up.
I always thought my dad and my mom were pretty smart people, and that they were worth emulating. You know, they had their shit together. They were real smart people, and they kind of understood how reality worked. And I was talking about politics from the time I was 7 years old to right now, right?
Mm.
They tended to give me um, kind of this great outlook on how things actually work. I never even thought twice. You know, my old man was a product of the 40s. If I had even mouthed off to him, I think he would have smacked my face off, right? So I think that these are the kind of this newer parenting hands off approach where you don't interject as much in your kid's life, tell them where they're fucking up things. I think that that's a huge mistake, and that's one of the reasons you reject wisdom. I mean, I can't tell you how many times my dad said, "How did that work out for you, dumbass?" And I went, "Well, not very well." you know
Yes. Well, I think it's
so
also, I mean, that's something that has been talked about plenty, which is a breakup of family, breakup of extended family as well. Uh, is a big part of this immaturity that we're finding in the political arena.
well, of course,
Yeah,
the but this is kind of the what I call the satanic mantra, which is that human beings are all just interchangeable widgets, and we're really not
no,
interchangeable widgets, and yet nobody's ever going to love you like your parents are going to love you ever.
exactly.
Like maybe your wife is the only other thing, but the relationship and the bond and the pair bonding that you have with your parents is not replaceable. You can't
No,
just insert two new parents and it becomes the same dynamic. It's not possible. So I
yeah,
think that that's also kind of sage wisdom that has been rejected just on the other side. That we're just kind of all interchangeable widgets. Who cares? Let the whole community raise you. What type of relationship do you need to even have with your own mother or your own father? It's like, well, you need to have a good one. And these people's job is to kind of guide you through the pitfalls and horrors of life before you're old enough to engage with them yourself. And we've kind of rejected that also. So
yeah. I think there are a lot of parallels between. I don't know what you mentioned earlier, the difference in Talmud and Christian theology. There probably are differences because otherwise there would be the same religion. So, but I don't think that on the fundamental issues there's that much difference, especially not
well, oh
in,
yeah, there's
in
tons of overlap.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to day-to-day practicality of how to interact, with other humans. It's very, very similar.
It's always funny. Anytime I talk to different Wignats who say, this is what the Talmud says, I always kind of laugh because it is true that they do source some of the things that the Talmud does say, and it does put some of the things in a negative light. There's no doubt that that's true. But anytime I press them on it, what's kind of the Talmud about? I don't really ever get any answers because you can clearly tell they haven't read it. I took about a year to kind of listen to this on audiobook because there's a lot, right? This is not like a small body of work. This is a large body of work, and
Yeah, but you have to be biblically educated to understand it as well. So if maybe yourself, because you're Christian, you you have some frame of reference. But if you never read the Bible, I mean, you don't really understand what they're on about in half
Well,
of the time.
a lot of this is rabbinic argumentation. This is like it's rabbis arguing, right? They're making formal arguments and propositions and proposals, and they're arguing about various things that are part of the human condition. And there's all kinds of things that overlap with Christian ethics. You know, just like with utilitarians, there's overlap with Christian ethics. Is that
Yeah.
we think that our proposal for ethical systems is far better than what they came up with, and I tend to kind of endorse that.
I tend to think that the different, subtly different solutions apply to different people at different times. So that it's possible. I know that there's even a name for it, but it's possible we're both right. So I mean, I'm not religious, but you know, it's possible that both the Jew, the Muslim, and the Christian are somehow right. I forget there's a name for it.
Ecumenism.
Is it? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all approximating some truth, and what we have is the best way for our culture to approximate that truth. So maybe, but
I would have to reject that, but
yeah, a lot of people do reject. Yes.
yeah, but I do kind of understand. I understand your point. I'm just saying to you that I think that the form of universal deontological ethics that's proposed by Christianity is something that no other religion or philosophy has ever even come close to. Now, this is my worldview on this. I'm just explaining to you that I think that these universal ethics are timeless, and because they're timeless, I don't think that they're situation based. So that's just kind of my outlook on it, right? So yeah, I mean, he didn't really expect me to come in here and say that I thought that Christianity wasn't superior to Judaism. Of course I do, right?
Yes, you would.
So
yeah. I mean, I mean, Judaism is not universalist. At least shouldn't be. So we kind of, I mean, for us, it's not a faith; it's a way, right? It's like it's more important how you live than what you think. Where in Christianity is more emphasis on your faith. So it's not like. It's a different thing in a way. It's not quite the same thing. This is why when people ask, are you a nation? Are you a religion? What are you? What is Judaism? And it's not exactly a religion. And the funny thing is that in the past, probably most nations were more like us. So I suspect that the Sumerians or the ancient Egyptians were more that way, where the ethnicity and the religion are more or less the same thing.
Yeah, I would say that like the Thothian sects from Egypt are something that you could point to. I think that Zoroastrianism is another thing that can be pointed to. I even think that early Kabbalism is something that can be pointed to as kind of more of a way of life and an overall edict on these types of things rather than a specific set of guidelines for what you can or can't do. I just think that people need these specific set of guidelines so that they understand what's moral, what's immoral. And, the nice thing about the New Testament is how simplistic it really is. And it's very easy for children to grasp from the time they're children going into, the Orthodox Church and kind of understanding the habit that comes with the ritualization of ethics. And, I think that that's really good for society.
I just find one of the things that I notice, and I was wondering where it comes from, but I find that there's more absolutism in the West than there is in Israel. So I find people are more radical in the West than they are in Israel. Not that we don't have radicals, but it just seems that way. I don't even know if it's true. And I wonder if that is related to Christianity versus Judaism, where
well, I think you're right. Probably a combination of factors. I don't think that Christianity has nothing to do with the absolutism. You have to remember that the people who came here originally were trying to escape Catholic persecution because of their absolutism. So, I mean, there was a kind of
Wasn't that Anglican in Britain?
yeah,
Anglican Church versus Puritan?
yeah, Puritans, and they
Yeah,
were trying to get rid of this kind of yoke of persecution that they felt like they were under.
You define Anglican as Catholic, or was it a mistake? Because I do not know
Well,
how
no,
you
no, no,
see
no,
each
no.
faction.
I'm sorry. So just to back up, the Protestant split in general was off of Catholicism under Martin Luther. So they were being, from their perspective, persecuted right away, you know. So the Puritans who came here, they were kind of absolutists. And do I think that there's more of an absolutist mindset here on many things than you might find in foreign nations? Depends. But I do think probably in comparison to your nation, it probably seems like that. We tend to think, look, this is either right or it's wrong. There's not a lot of middle ground here, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Israel, we have in our culture a very much amount of natural pragmatism, kind of a souvenir from the pioneer time.
Yeah, maybe because, well, I don't know. I don't want to start a whole discussion because we've gone for 2 hours. I have a final question for you because you have been with us
Certainly.
for a while. Just
Yeah.
a prediction. What do you think is going to happen? I think it's pretty obvious what's going to happen in the midterm elections, right? I think the
Mhm.
Republicans are going to gain.
Yep.
But what do you think is going to happen in 24? Do you think Trump is coming back? And if not, when will he split the Republicans? I mean, how do you feel about this? And I mean, it's
I
just a
think that
feeling,
there's
right? You
a,
can't, you're not a
I think
prophet.
there's a good likelihood that he'll run. I don't know that he'll ever get the same type of popularity that he had before, but I think there's a good popularity or a good probability that he'll run, and I'll tell you why. From Trump's standpoint, publicity is always good, So even if he ends up dropping out of the race and endorsing somebody else, I think that the chances of him actually running are really good. I don't think the chances are good that he'll ever be president again, but I think that the chances that he'll run are very, very, very good. The midterms, the Republicans will clean house, and they'll probably actually clean house for the next 6 years, maybe even 8 years. And the reason for this is because of all the lockdowns and things like that. I can't use a lot of the more choice language on your channel. I don't want to get you guys in any trouble, but I think that the people's complete and total shrug off of these kind of lockdown procedures are something that's going to usher in a wave of kind of right-wing dominance in politics, probably for the next 6 to 8 years. I don't think it's going to go away because it's something they can constantly point to, right? And say,
Yeah,
this is what the left did to you. Look at what they did to you when they were in charge. And that's not going to be something that people shrug off very easily. So I think that Trump will sweep in the midterms, but also Trump will run again. He'll probably drop out and endorse somebody else. Who that person is, there's a lot of talent on the right now. And, who that ends up being kind of remains to be seen. But I think a lot of people are going to be chomping at the bit because Biden's going to be a one-termer for sure.
yeah. I don't really know what they're going to do because Kamala is not exactly the best candidate, right?
They won't. They
It's
probably
Stacey
won't.
Abrams, Star Trek body, so
Yeah, they're not gonna run the vice. It actually would not surprise me if they ran the Clinton again. It really wouldn't. The talent pool on the left is not nearly as good as it is on the right now. There's not a whole lot you can look at on the left because they had their trial, right? So they had their trial by fire. How do these guys really govern when they basically are in charge of everything and there's a huge catastrophe? Everybody kind of got a taste and they didn't really do a very good job, So I think you're going to see kind of this real big sweep up happen and you'll see right-wing politics stay fairly dominant for the next 6 years. So,
Be interesting to see. I mean, we love Trump, of course, but generally we prefer Republicans. So
well, I
Ron
mean, who
DeSantis,
doesn't?
local, right?
You know, who doesn't prefer Republicans? You know, even a lot of Democrats prefer Republicans.
well, yeah, I mean, they run on all, I mean, this is obviously a long discussion as well, but they run on all these promises, and when you actually give them what they want, they seem to destroy everything they touch.
Yeah, they have the reverse Midas touch, don't they?
Yes.
You know, so instead of everything turning to gold, it kind of turns to shit. This is because they have to promise these block groups that all kind of band together to vote them in. They have to promise them X amount of the public treasury. And when they're unable to deliver on the public treasury that they promise these different block groups, the block groups get very, very upset. And you end up with all types of internal conflict and policy making decisions that don't make any sense, and different groups being elevated above other groups. And it creates massive chaos. It's totally contrary to their egalitarian message, but this is how Democrats do politics. They don't have a central majority of voters like Republicans do. They bank on the fact that all of the different fractal groups are going to come together to vote them into office.
I tend to
So
think
that's a lot of promises, you know.
yeah, but I tend to think that comes from just going back to psychology. It comes from having the wrong moral foundations, and which you probably will agree with. You call them unchristian, but I don't know if you haven't read or haven't seen anything by Jonathan Haidt. It's very interesting because psychology is a soft science, and I'm a fan of real science for sure. But he did his best to make it as accurate as you could be. So he used all sorts of questions that indirectly try to understand what kind of person you are, what your morals are, what your ethics are. So he would ask questions, give him all sorts of dilemmas. And one of the questions would be, which party do you normally vote for, or would you typically vote for? And then he used statistical analysis to work out what is going on. And there are tendencies that you see in the psychology of people on the left versus people on the right. For example, people on the left tend to be anti-authoritarian, and people on the right tend to respect authority.
But they will later do the authoritarian, anti-authoritarian for eternity.
Yes. Yes, but this is, of course, when he was asking people, he was liberals versus conservatives rather than, communists versus, whatever.
Right. So from my standpoint, I'll take it. I don't know if you guys know this about me or not, but I read everything everybody sends me always. Sometimes it even takes me several months to get to it, but me and my wife have always been this way, right? We're always perpetually a couple of months behind reading everything, everybody, but we've just kind of made a promise to ourselves that we would do that. If someone took the time to send us something to read they thought was important, we read it, we'll look at it, whatever. From my standpoint, psychology, the kind of beds or armchair general, psychological armchair general, right? Intuitive psychology seems to me to be kind of the standard of the day. So the best philosophers and psychologists that I've ever met are just farmhands,
Absolutely. Yeah, I know what you mean. I agree. Yeah, I always say that myself, but I think you'll find that he does show things that you probably have noticed yourself about the differences between people who lean more liberal versus conservative. And the reason he did this research was to help Obama get re-elected. So he was trying to find how to refine what the messaging is, so that you hit the sweet spots, right? What do people really care about? What are the things? And it's interesting to see. So obviously, people who are conservative have values like sanctity. They understand the value of symbols a lot more than people on the left, and so on. So it's very, very interesting what he did, and it also helped me understand the other side of any argument better, because you stop thinking that they're idiots or that they're hateful or that they're evil, and you start to understand they just have a different moral foundation. And
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's probably exactly the correct way to look at it. The only problem with it, and still why, I'll look at everything you send me, but probably the reason I enjoy kind of the intuitive takes of people
mm,
over this kind of more pseudoscientific approach is because I do think that the nature of evil is intuitively understood,
yes,
even if it can't be easily described. And so
yes,
sometimes just having the farmer say that's an evil man, and he ends up being right, even though you can't describe exactly what the characteristics of what makes him an evil man is. They seem to be intuitively understood to a degree that we can't scientifically show.
yes. Well, it's yeah. I mean, I keep saying it on Ralph's channel. People start quoting all these philosophers, and I say I got more sense out of a taxi driver than out of Nietzsche. So,
Right. Well, it's true, and this is the world that we live in now,
I
where
say, well, he doesn't have syphilis. He's not going to die alone. He's got a family, and
yeah,
he works for a living. I mean, that's already a start.
yeah, it's a million light years ahead of this, kind of pseudo intellectual over here who crunches numbers and masturbates all day, right? So
Yeah,
it's, I think that there's a lot to be said, and I would stay with that if I were you, Masad.
yeah, yeah.
That's
But
that's probably the correct way to engage with the world.
I think so. Obviously, we want to learn from people who have studied things as well. So, one of the things that Jonathan Haidt said that he thinks the way we raise our kids is part of the problem, and they don't interact with enough kids. So he made a massive effort with his kids to let them go out and hang with other kids. But the kids come back and say, "There's no one to hang with. There's no one to play
Right,
with."
right.
Um,
But
uh,
isn't this just conventional wisdom again?
Okay,
Like
of
kind of
course, of
intuitive,
course,
intuitive, conventional
of
wisdom.
course.
Like this is the bitch that same taxi driver you were talking
Yes.
about would tell you. He'd be like, little Johnny doesn't have nobody to play with, so he's all
Yeah.
socially fucked up.
Well, it's like a researcher, scientific research found that banging your head against the wall is not good for you.
Right, it's not good for you.
we
It's
have,
bad. It's
we
bad.
have,
Putting the gun in your mouth and pulling the trigger may lead to death, right?
yes,
It's like,
yes, we can have it now confirmed. 98% of cases did not end well.
oh, it's
uh,
so true. I mean, it's true. Like you're not on the wrong path, and it's like the more, the thousands of people I've interacted with online, I always try to take time for everybody who wants to talk, and the amount of wisdom that's really out there for people. You don't even need to get books, just talk to people, and you'll find
yeah,
out that people aren't nearly as dumb as you think,
I agree.
and
I agree.
they have a lot of excellent grounded wisdom and
Yeah.
intuitive psychology that would really benefit you. But it's difficult to do because so many people are socially maladjusted and socially
Yes.
awkward. They're afraid of conversation. And
Yeah, I try to do it. I mean, I've always been this way. By the way, apparently Trump is that way. He talks to everybody.
well, that's why he's so successful.
Yeah,
He was a man who wanted to go and do the things that he wanted to do, but he understood that he would need to understand what made the people around him tick, how to take the correct amount of criticism versus when to lash back. Like these types of social skills are difficult to really garner. It takes a lot of interaction with people
yeah,
to start to gauge how they're going to react to your different messages and the things that you say and this
yeah.
type of thing.
It's reading
So,
body language. It's a
oh yeah,
whole, yeah,
yeah, it's the same thing in a debate, really. Even in a debate, reading body language, kind of reading the social cues are very important to winning the debate.
yeah,
Whether people understand that or not, there's definitely a huge element to that.
yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, we've gone for 2 hours. I don't want to keep you any longer. It's been really
sure.
interesting, and we'd love to talk to you again at some point. Maybe when there's some new events that we can discuss. I really enjoyed you roped me into a debate. I didn't know it was a debate, and I realized
Well,
as the time approached.
you were kind of being a pussy about it, so I was like, "Fuck this guy. He's going on and debating whether he likes it or not." So it's like, what is he gonna do? Get mad at me later? You know? And
No.
you know, it worked out. It worked out fine.
Yeah. I
think
mean,
I did. I thought you were kind of being a sissy about it. I was like, no, he's good at this. He doesn't know he's good at it. We're just gonna throw him on, and we're gonna see how it goes. And it went good, right?
even well, I mean, you do run a good show, I have to say. You get pretty opinionated people to actually behave themselves, and you can listen, and I've listened to quite a few debates on your channel. And it's it's well run, and Pedro is also good, the other guy who
Oh
who's
yeah,
working
yeah.
with you. He's very good at keeping it calm and organized.
Yeah, he's good. You know, we put in the jokes when they need to be made. We
Yeah.
kind of put the conversation back on track when it needs to go. The Crucible is different than anything you'll find on the market because we focus less on the bullshit and drama and we focus more on the actual issues. That's a tough pill for people to swallow, you know. But we end up with these kind of amazing conversations like you guys had with Night Nation Review and Hake, which is it was kind of a legendary thing to watch that play out in real time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I like him. I like JLP. I like these people. And, whenever they criticize us, it's always very misinformed. I mean, criticize us for real things,
Yeah.
But anyway, again, thanks for joining. Now that you've made me into debate animal, I'm happy to join another debate. And Silver
I
now,
do that to
Silver,
you fuckers, you know.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on. My again, to anybody who might be viewing this, make sure you like and subscribe to the
Yes.
Illuminati. Hell of a name, right? Hell of a name. We'll be posting this up with your guys' permission, of course, to the channel.
Yeah, please do.
And see what we can do for you. And then my name is Andrew Wilson. I am the host of The Crucible, a debate channel on YouTube.
Yep.
And I hope I see all of you over there.
Yeah, there's a link in the description, so go and check his channel. There's quite a few interesting debates, and they're well run. It doesn't devolve into people shouting at each other as well. So, yeah.
Well, it depends, but not usually.
Not usually, no. Yeah, occasionally that's fine. Occasionally that's fine.
Yeah, a little bit of blood sports and a little bit of a.
I bet those glasses make you see better.